Corona. The whole world is talking about it, day in and day out. If a person is not infected, he is certainly affected. He's affected in his finances, he's affected in his travels, he's affected in his mind and emotions all day long. Looking at what's happening, another case. What started in a city is now suddenly spreading to the world. What does God want from us? What is the message? Well, it's interesting. If a person travels from a country where he might have been infected, he must go right away in quarantine for 2 weeks. The Torah speaks about this already. The Torah speaks about an individual that saw another type of sickness, a type of leprosy, a blemish on his skin. He must be in quarantine for a week. The Kohen comes to visit him, examines his stain. If it did not grow, if it did not spread, he stays another week. And after 2 weeks, 14 days, the Kohen specifically, the priest, is the one that's going to determine if it is pure, it's not pure. You see, this leprosy was not only a physical sickness, it was a spiritual disease. Where did the disease come from? And why did the Kohen have to be the one to examine the disease? You see, the Kohen says a very special blessing before he blesses us on Shabbat, during the week, or during the holidays. He says, "Blessed are you, God, which sanctified us with the holiness of Aaron, our forefather, and commanded us to bless your people with love." The Kohen is the epitome of love. That's why his garments show glory, because the inside is reflected outside. The same thing with the leper. The Torah tells us that he will be impure. He will be isolated. He will be in quarantine. Why? Because with your mouth, you spoke ill about somebody else. You are called a motzi ra. A mitzorah, which is motzi ra, the one that took out the bad. You decided consciously to focus on the bad and bring it to the surface. Well, your bad is going to be brought to the surface. Not only that, the Torah tells us that he was obligated to wear a mask over his mouth in order not to infect others. Interesting. I believe that what's happening in the world is a lesson for us. We have to be careful with what comes out of our mouth. A little, 2 words can destroy, in the push of a button, a whole life, a whole reputation can be completely destroyed. Before you speak about somebody else, be careful. Because in heaven, you're causing that others should speak about you. And suddenly you might be in a situation where you will be isolated. But God forbid, I'm not saying that those who are isolated that spoke bad. I'm just saying that there's a message to the world. A message that, you know what? Why did I feel free to judge and to speak bad about somebody else? Because I looked outside my house. And because I separated between 2 people, I need to be isolated from the community. I need to realize that the 4 walls of my house, this house is not only my house, it's my home. There's a way I need to speak to my spouse. There's a respect I need to have. There's a special positive way I need to speak to my children, to speak to myself. I don't need 3 televisions telling me all the awful news and all the bad gossip of what's happening with the world. I don't need to be in my phone all day, feeding myself with negativity. I need to isolate myself and anchor myself. Make my house into a home of holiness, a home where there is respect, where there's love. And as we build our home, we are making a home for God. Interestingly enough, the sickness is called corona. Corona is the crown. It's interesting because in Hasidut it explains that the mouth is connected to the crown. The mouth is royalty. God created the world with speech. We have the power with speech to create or, God forbid, to destroy. Speech is nothing. It's not the intellect that has a mind of its own. It's not the heart that has feelings. It just expresses. But that little breath, which seems so innocent, that expresses, has the power to draw new energies from what's called in Hasidut and Kabbalah, the crown. And that's why when we have ideas in our mind, suddenly they get organized and there's a new influx of energy, of ideas that come. And that's why the Reshit Chochmah says that when you have an emotion, the first thing you need to do when you're angry is to be quiet, because you don't want to inflame the emotions. Speech is connected to the crown. And the Rebbe Rashab explains the word keter, crown in Hebrew, comes from the word katar li ze'er. Wait, be silent. Await, hope for the revelation. Keter represents royalty. Keter, in order to be able to get healed of the corona, we need to be able to learn to be silent and not to say the word that's going to hurt somebody else. With words, we can heal the whole world. This is our time. Our time to welcome Mashiach. Mashiach is Masiach, the one that speaks. Mashiach, the Messianic era, has been here for many, many years. It seems that now this is the time where we have to anchor ourselves, appreciate our home, in order for Mashiach to liberate us and to build God's home. Stay safe.